Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. All eyes are on the Senate now as the 20th Congress begins. A change in the Senate leadership as well as new set of senator judges may influence the impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte. In her reply to the Senate summons, the Vice President is asking the impeachment court to dismiss the complaint filed against her. Let's get on point with the Dean of the Manila Adventist College School of Law and Jurisprudence and the defense lawyer during the impeachment trial of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona. We have Attorney Tranquil Salvador. Attorney, good to have you. Finally see you in person.
Good evening.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. So,
thank you also.
You were saying that this is your first live appearance since the pandemic?
Yes. The other interviews were all Zoom, if I remember it accurately.
We appreciate you coming to the studio tonight. Maraming salamat po. I'm going to shoot the first question already, sir. Should the issue on jurisdiction first be resolved before an impeachment trial begins? I went straight to that, sir,
Yes.
because yan ho ang pinag-uusapan ngayon.
That is a very important question because there's a lot of discussion about jurisdiction. Now, allow me to explain this to you in light of procedure, legal, and then probably later on other matters. If you look at the provisions, the provision of the Constitution under Article 11, you will not find that matter. On matter of jurisdiction, on matter of whether there could be a dismissal, a possible dismissal. You look at the rules of impeachment, and you will not find the word dismissal, but you will find the word motions. You will find the word motions in Roman number 6 and in Roman number 14.
This is part of what again?
The
Attorney?
rules of Senate impeachment. Now, why am I saying all of this? Because under ordinary rules, before the court will proceed to hear the case, if there's a question of jurisdiction, the court will have to resolve the matter of jurisdiction. And why is it so? Because the matter of jurisdiction is important to know whether the court could hear, try, and render a valid judgment. If the court has no jurisdiction, the entire proceedings will be null and void. And that is an important matter that probably you would want to know from me. Attorney, will this be the first matter that they will tackle? Well, this is how I see it. Come the 20th Congress, I foresee that they will choose the Senate President. Once they've chosen the Senate President, then they have actually convened as a Senate impeachment court from the 19th Congress. But if you would recall, there are still a number of them who will join, and they will be placed under oath. Now, assuming that these proceedings will continue, then I expect a motion to be raised on the floor. That's how I see this happening. Now, will they have to rule on it?
Let's backtrack a little bit. So, July 28th, maybe.
Yes.
On July 28th. During the President's State of the Nation address, the Senate will convene in the morning,
Yes.
and then they will adjourn for the SONA. Do you see it happening then?
No.
Not on the
yet,
28th.
yes. I
So
don't see
July
that.
29.
Well, to my mind, I'm not too certain about the dates, but to my mind, as soon as the Senate President is chosen, is elected, I foresee that that could be a matter that will be discussed.
All right. It could be the 28th, 29th, or maybe another
Yes,
day.
another
But
day.
Once they have chosen the Senate President, and the new set of senators, the new set of 12 senators, will have to take their oath again together with the old 12?
Well,
or just the new set of 12?
That's another matter that you have to look into because it has been terminated, the 19th Congress. But if the thinking is it's a continuing body, it's a continuing institution, the Senate, then those who have taken their oath will remain.
What do you think?
Well, I would think that there will only be an oath of the new ones. That's how I see it. Because why do I say that? An answer has been filed, a reply has been filed, so the mindset is, and what they have projected to the public is, we're continuing. Rest assured, we're continuing.
So it's a continuing body because of the summons and because of the reply to the summons, even if it was ad cautelam.
And in addition to that, those are not legislative functions.
Yes.
And again, a lot will say, no, 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 it's not a legislative function. This will continue. Having said that, the rest will take an oath. That from there, of course, they will have to determine when will we take the session? When will the session start? Of course, we have also legislative functions. All of this they will have to sort out first.
All right. And then you were saying that there's the legal side and there's the other side for other matters, you were saying?
Well, I always say this, when I discuss this, there is the legal that we're discussing right now, and there is also the political side, wherein people will have to, of course, they are senators, they have been elected by the people, and a lot of the actions or steps they will take would depend on how the people react. And that is, I'm sorry to say this, the reason why there is a continuous discussion about this. Remember that today is just June 30. It's more than around 3 weeks from now. So there's a lot of discussion. Why? To make sure that this issue is alive.
Isn't it also true, would you submit, that there's a lot of discussion because there's a lot of confusion with, number one, the Senate shall forthwith begin with trial. That's number one. And all the other petitions that were filed before the Supreme Court, such as, is there continuation from the 19th to the 20th Congress?
Those are important matters to discuss. Thank you for presenting that. These are legal issues that have been actually discussed in the last few weeks. Allow me to present this to your televiewers. The first legal issue would be, is there a violation of the provision of the Constitution on the one impeachment every year, or what you call the 1-year ban for an impeachment complaint? That is presently before the Supreme Court. And that is also one reason why the Senate has acted on what we know now as a remand or a return. Now, allow me to expand or to explore this further. Based on the facts, purely the facts, there were 3 complaints in December. The House of Representatives held on to it. When the Constitution says shall, it should have been set on order of business, included in the order of business within 10 days, and should have been forwarded
within 10 session days.
Within 10 session days.
Okay.
Within 10 session days, they should have calendared it, included it in the order of business. And within 3 session days, it should have been forwarded to the committee. Those things did not happen. And moving forward, February, 200 plus congressmen, what did they do? They signed. And that constituted the articles of impeachment. That was forwarded. Now, that is a legal issue. That is a subject of discussion. And that is, as you said, there's a lot of confusion, first because of this. The second matter would be the matter of forthwith. Okay? But the forthwith is connected with this. This is on the assumption that everything is in order, that everything complies with the Constitution. Therefore, if there is a properly filed complaint or endorsed complaint with the Senate, then trial will have to proceed forthwith. So, if, let's say, a person would discuss it legally, I'll just look at the complaint, and then I'll just look at the forthwith, then there will be some confusion. Because I will insist on forthwith. In fact, to further the discussion, some would say, there are only 2 things that could happen. To convict or to acquit, right? You've heard that several times.
Yes.
But if you read the original provisions of the Constitution, Article 11, Section 3, it says, by a 2/3 vote, you will be, the respondent will be convicted. It's quiet about acquittal. But the natural consequence of not obtaining the 2/3 vote would be an acquittal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, would it be safe to say that's common sense?
Yes,
that's
it
why
is.
there was no.
It is.
Okay.
And that leads me to the next discussion.
But before we go
Yes.
there, I want to just jump in and kind of ask you about the 2 shall be calendared within 10 session days. This is part of Article 11 of the Constitution, and this refers to the House.
Yes.
Meaning the House shall include within 10 session days, within the order of business within 10 session days.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a question that has been asked.
Yes.
In comparison to the Senate part,
Yes.
where it says
Well,
shall, may shall na, may forthwith pa.
Yes, and the
Sila
complaint
shall
having been
within
endorsed.
10 days. Yeah.
Yes. And having been endorsed, they've got no choice.
Attorney, this is my question. does one affect the other? Does the first shall calendar within 10 session days affect the Senate
Okay.
shall forthwith begin trial?
Allow me to explain this. See, and that is the reason why there's a discussion about the 1-year bar. And this has been resolved by the Supreme Court in the leading case of Francisco versus House of Representatives. So this is not something that we could really feign. In that, let me give you briefly the factual antecedents of that case. There was an impeachment complaint filed against the Chief Justice David, if you would recall, and it was dismissed. A few days thereafter, on the following day, they filed. So the question is, can you do that? So some would say, it's different, you know. The facts of this case is different. Let me bring you to the case of Ombudsman Gutierrez. In the case of Ombudsman Gutierrez, 4 days before the start of Congress, there was a complaint filed by a party list group. Then thereafter, upon the resumption or the start of Congress, another one was filed. What happened was both were scheduled in the order of business on the same day. If I'm not mistaken, it's August 10 or August 11. So the Supreme Court said, no problem. Even if there were 2 complaints, there's no problem. Now, what we have now are different factual antecedents. You have 3 complaints. You remember in December, there was no reference, or it was not included in the order of business. And then there was a 4th one in Feb, wherein there was a vote of 200 plus, and that constituted the articles of impeachment.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
That is why, to my mind, and that is among legal lingo, among us, we call that a justiciable controversy. This is a matter that the court can resolve. Is that
The Supreme Court?
Yes, the Supreme Court.
And only the Supreme Court?
Yes.
So, let me cut you there. You
course.
said it's only the Supreme Court can decide on this.
Allow me to explain. Okay, allow me to explain. Yes, the Supreme Court has resolved it. The Supreme Court has resolved it as a justiciable controversy. But I think your concern would be, how did it happen? How is it that it proceeded now in Senate? And how is it that Senator Bato, Senator Bongo, and later Senator Cayetano said, okay, let's just return it. So, to my mind, this is connected. That question would be, can the Senate act on it? I think that's an important question that the people would want to know. Now, there is nothing, to my mind, that would tell us historically that the Senate has acted on that. However, let me call your attention, go back to the case of Francisco versus House of Representatives, and there is a concurring opinion by one justice of the court. In this concurring opinion, I would like to be very clear, that is not the main decision. However, the concurring opinion is some sort of a guidance, probably legal guidance, probably in the future. It's not the main decision. And allow me to tell you that probably they used that as a legal handle. They used that as a legal handle to move for the dismissal.
But maybe for context, again, tell us the decision on the Francisco case.
Well, the Francisco case actually told us that you cannot file more than 1 impeachment complaint, or initiate, to be more accurate,
Right.
in 1 year.
And that's where I wanted to go.
Yes.
The word used was initiate.
Yes.
So for you, attorney, when is a complaint deemed initiated? I ask you that because among the 3 complaints filed, December 2, the first one was filed. December 4, the second impeachment complaint was filed. December 19, the third impeachment complaint was filed. According to the House, none was initiated because none never actually made it to the Committee on Justice. How would you respond to that, sir?
Let me explain this. The case of Francisco versus House of Representatives defined the differentiated filing and initiation.
Yeah.
If you look at the first sentence of the Constitution, it says to initiate, only the House of Representatives can initiate an impeachment proceedings. And as defined and as explained in the case of House of Francisco, it says initiate is to file and to calendar. Set it for in the order of business. That's initiating. Filing is different.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
filing is
filing
different.
and
Filing and including it in the order of business and forwarding it
to the committee. I think kailangan pumunta dun sa Committee on Justice. So it is not just, it is file, it is calendar within 10 days, and referred to the Committee on Justice. That's when it's deemed initiated.
Yes, initiated.
Okay.
Now,
so, sorry sir, so dito po sa lahat ng impeachment complaint, doon sa tatlo, December 2, December 14, none was initiated. Would you agree? Okay.
Well, hang on. While as a matter of fact, you would say none was initiated, it was held on to.
Yeah.
Okay? But the question is, was it your duty to forward it, having received a verified complaint? Having received a verified complaint, and clearly the mandate of the Constitution said, shall, would you have acted within a reasonable period of time to calendar it and to forward it to the committee? That is the question. And to my mind, I will not answer it. It's not my opinion that's important here. It's a matter that the court can resolve.
Again, the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court.
So here's a question. If it's a matter for the Supreme Court to decide, can the Senate decide on this on its own?
That's why I will bring you back to my discussion on the concurring opinion.
Okay.
Allow me to explain it. Under the concurring opinion, it says, it's a recommendation, it's not the main decision. It says, before the impeachment court is constituted, there was an example given, if you get to read the original. For those of you listening, law students, you read it in the original. It says, for example, this happens, the court, the Senate can entertain a motion, okay, for Chief Justice David, it says, or motu proprio, on its own. So, to my mind, that's why when I heard that was a 4-hour, discussion on the floor. I heard it. I watched it. So I think that was the reason why they did it. If you would know, they were insisting that it be dismissed before impeachment proceedings, or before they were constituted as an impeachment court. But there was now a little bit of a complication because they are now wearing robes. An oath has been taken. And because an oath has been taken, the impeachment court has been constituted. It appears that they have no other choice but to proceed. You see? Now the question is, can they, come the 20th Congress, will they act to dismiss it?
Yeah.
Now, let's paint the picture that they actually act on it. They dismissed it. For example, I'm not saying they will do it.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's say they act on it by dismissing it. Well, the question now, will there be grave abuse of discretion on the part of the Senate? And under the Philippine Constitution, Article 8 recognizes that any agency of the government that commits grave abuse of discretion could be subject to question before the Supreme Court. And this has always been recognized as what you call the judicial reach or overbreath, provided by the 1987 Constitution.
But when does a co-equal branch of government there come in when you talk about possible grave abuse of discretion?
Well, there would naturally be a petition filed. May petition. Kaya nga actually, to be honest, I was waiting. Kasi ang dami nag-away eh.
Yeah.
Hinihintay ko, sino magpa-file? Ang nandun pala ngayon, sa alam ko yung petition, final, questioning the complaint, 1-year bar for an impeachment complaint. But recently I heard that there was someone who filed a supplemental petition.
There was.
There was. So,
there was a supplemental petition, I believe, from the camp of the Duterte camp.
Yes. To supplement what was already pending. Yes.
All right, we just need to take a very short break. We'll be back with the Dean of the Manila Adventist College School of Law and Jurisprudence and the defense lawyer during the impeachment trial of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona, Attorney Tranquil Salvador. Stay tuned. This is On Point. You're watching On Point, still with us, the Dean of the Manila Adventist College School of Law and Jurisprudence and the defense lawyer during the impeachment trial of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona, Attorney Tranquil Salvador. I'm going to try to summarize it because there's so much that I got from you. When we talk about the 1-year ban on impeachable officials, I guess to simplify it, may karapatan ho ba ang Senado na tanungin ang Kongreso kung nagkamali sila, kung legal, ganito lang po, kung tama at hindi sila nag-violate ng Constitution with regards to the 1-year bar rule. Does the Senate have the right to do that, acting as an impeachment court? Because some will say, Bakit yung tinatanong yan? Hindi ba dapat karapatan yan ng defense na tanungin sa House
Yes.
at sa Supreme Court?
Kasi yan, wala historically, sagutin kita ng ganito, walang historically balikan yun, nagkaroon ng ganyang sitwasyon na ang Senado bubusisiin niya, parang mali ito, ibabalik ko sa'yo. Wala pa niyan. That's why it has always been my position, dapat yan nilatag niyo sa Supreme Court. At ang Supreme Court ang makakapagpaliwanag, kahit pa sabihin natin nalalaman natin ang batas, based on the Constitution, it's the Supreme Court that interprets the law.
Yeah, so this is a first.
Yes.
Number one, it's a first that it was returned to the House.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, it's also a first because part of that return is we want a certification, House,
Yes.
that you did not violate the
Yes.
one-year bar rule.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so this is also a first. So
Yes. And another first is there is a return and there was a writ of summon issued.
Yes.
That's why it was even discussed in their answer ng respondent. Sabi nila, paano ba? As a minor discussion, paano kami sasagot? Ba't kami sasagot ng kompleto? Ibinalik nga, anong sasagutin ko?
actually sinabi nila, anong isasagot namin? Wala namang
Yes,
articles of
yes,
impeachment.
yun
Yun po ang
sabi nila,
sagot
oo.
ng defense
Yes.
nila VP Sara.
Yes. So it created some sort of a legal complication.
Let me ask this personal question. Did it get more complicated for you as a lawyer?
Well,
And as part of the defense team during an impeachment trial?
for academic discussion or as a legal matter, it is. Sabi ko, kaya pinaliliwanag ko nga, I'm trying my best to sort it out
Yeah.
and to present the different legal issues and the stages of the proceedings. Because otherwise, ang tao kasi, ang aking challenge, ako, ito advocacy ko na lang. Ang tao kasi, siyempre pagod yan, maraming trabaho, kanya-kanyang buhay. Hindi nila masusundan, katulad na nasusundan
Yeah,
natin.
it's good to really
Yes.
simplify it.
Tapos, pag nakita nila yan, siyempre, pagod na yan. Magfe-Facebook yan. Oh, unconstitutional. O mali nga to. And then, it's actually a race to the mind of the Filipino.
I actually like that, attorney, because really what's good is even when I talk to lawyers, for and against,
Yes.
is that I actually really learn from many of you and I form, my own
Yes.
judgment that I
Thank
keep
you.
to myself, by the way.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say is, it needs to be, parang kailan himay-himayin mo eh. And make it quite digestible even for people like me.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Because there's a lot of basic questions. Like, number one, as you mentioned, does the Senate have the right to return to the House?
Yes.
It's a first.
Yes.
Does the Senate have a right to question, House, you may have violated the one-year bar. That's also a first, right?
Yes.
And it's also a first for the Senate to say, 20th Congress, are you willing to pursue what the 19th Congress did? Okay.
And some, again, with all due respect, some would say, there is this case like this, Arnold versus Nazareno, and, that furthers the complication. But if you read it in the original, again, it's a 1950s case, you would say that just like the U.S. But again, at the time, the Philippine Senate was elected in intervals of 6 senators. And at a given time, you could vote on 2/3, unlike now, 12-12.
Yeah.
So these are questions that I think the Supreme Court will have to resolve.
Was there, do you think, without, I guess, when you try to read Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution, attorney, is it fair to just say, but it doesn't say anything in Article 11 that, number one, you can return to the House prosecutors the articles of impeachment. Is it fair to say, mali yung ginagawa nyo kasi wala dun sa Article 11 eh?
Allow me to say it this way. As a practitioner, and for those practitioners listening to me, they know how a case can evolve once the case is alive. You cannot say exactly 1 + 1, 2.
Hindi ganun.
Because pag nandiyan ka na sa ground, parang ano yan eh, it's like a war.
It opens a can of worms.
Yes, if you're on the ground, you'll be faced with motions, requests, objections, relevancy of documents. Hindi mo pwede, no, gusto ko lang marinig yan. To be fair. Di ba?
Okay.
Pag practitioner yun, makikita mo na hindi mo pwede hanggang dito lang.
Kasi meron ho doon nakasulat din sa Article 11, the Senate shall decide, hear and decide.
Yes.
Diba? The case.
Yes.
So pag sinabi pong hear, this is part of Article 11, hear and decide, kailangan magkaroon ng paglilitis
Yes.
at kailangan magkaroon ng desisyon.
Correct.
Papaano po kung hindi magkaroon ng paglilitis? Is that a violation of the Constitution?
We go back to your question a while ago. There's the House side and there is
Right.
the Senate side. And allow me to bring to everyone's attention the last sentence of Section 3. It says that they will formulate Congress. It doesn't say Senate. It doesn't say House. The Senate will formulate rules that will what? Give life to this Constitution. So, hindi ba nakita, gagawa sila ng rules ng House, gagawa ng rules ng Senado.
Right.
Dapat consistent yan sa saligang batas. Hindi lang ang Senado. Di ba? Dapat pareho sila.
But yeah, that's where the problem lies because there's the 1987 Constitution doesn't allow political dynasties and yet there's no enabling law. Hindi ho ba? May,
Yes.
may ganun eh. How important, I mean, it's really up to the Supreme Court right
Yes,
now,
yes.
right? Because when the 20th Congress comes into life, which they already
Yes.
did, and a motion for disqualification or question on jurisdiction is raised by any of the senators, and a simple majority wins.
Yes.
Do you agree with Senate President Cheese Escudero that the plenary rules?
Okay. I don't want to say I agree. If they act as the Senate, regardless of my view on the matter, if, for example, they say they have no jurisdiction, they dismiss, then I see a lot of groups going to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I see that. And that is where probably a lot of discussion will come
But
in.
you're a lawyer and you're a professor.
Yes.
So I'm asking you, do you think that the plenary rules in situations like this when it comes to an impeachment case?
You know, I'm answering you in this manner because this is relatively new. And what you have is a constitution and the Senate rules. I could always interpret it, but the Supreme Court could say otherwise. My opinion is inconsequential at the end of the day. It's the Supreme Court.
I wonder, and do you wonder, if the Supreme Court will
Well,
have a decision
yes,
sometime
yes.
soon?
Will the Supreme Court come up with a decision
Yeah.
before July 28th, right? Or after?
Yeah.
Or will probably they will wait, let the Senate act and probably they will file a petition. You know, we don't know.
We don't
and
know.
that is
Yeah,
why
of course we
I'm not
don't.
giving you a categorical opinion. Because all of this is
Yeah.
very fluid at this point in time.
Yeah. And you're not one to...
Oh, of course.
You're not one to guess, huh?
And
Because
I
you're a
don't-
lawyer.
And I don't want to be a soundbite and a poster boy.
Well, there's so much again to, of course, still discuss. I actually have so much still. So that's supposed to form part of this discussion, but I didn't even make it there. So we're gonna have to have a part 2.
Yes, okay.
Attorney, thank you so much for your
And
time.
thank you.
Always good to hear from legal minds. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. To the Dean of the Manila Adventist College School of Law and Jurisprudence and the defense lawyer during the impeachment trial of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona, Attorney Tranquil Salvador. Attorney, muli, maraming salamat.
Salamat din.
That's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.